What's up, y'all? On today's video, we are breaking down everything you need to know about open enrollment at Twin City schools. We'll start with general information, and by the end of the video, we're gonna get into the granular details. So if there's an area that you're drawn to, but don't necessarily like the schools and really don't wanna pay for private schools, then this video is for you. All right, let's go. How's it going, friends? My name is Bradford Schulz, and I work with the hardest working real estate team in the game. We're called To the Twin Cities, and this YouTube channel aims to be the single best resource on the internet when it comes to Twin City schools. If that's important to you, subscribe to the channel, click the little bell to get notified every time we post videos. And if you want our help here buying a home in the Twin Cities and navigating the school systems, reach out to me directly at bradford@tothetwincities.com. I'd love to help. All right, let's get into it. So as I mentioned in today's video, we are gonna talk all about how Minnesota's open enrollment system works, its benefits, eligibility criteria, and the application process. First, I wanna start off by mentioning though that there is not a nationwide bill that mandates open enrollment options for students at a state level. School choice and open enrollment is primarily the responsibility of individual states. And each state has its own laws, regulations, and policies related to open enrollment that can really vary from state to state. At this point, most states have implemented open enrollment policies. This allows parents and students more educational choices and competition among schools. So what is open enrollment? In Minnesota, open enrollment is officially known as statewide enrollment options. Open enrollment allows parents and students access to schools outside of their residential assigned district. Essentially, this means attending a school that you're not assigned to based on your home address. With the most recent count provided by the state of Minnesota, about 10% or 85 to 90,000 students are open enrolled. One important distinction to make note early on here is there's really two types of open enrollment. There's inter-district and intra-district open enrollment. Inter-district allows students to attend a school outside of their residential assigned district. This is the more commonly known open enrollment option. Let's say you live in Bloomington, Minnesota, but you really want to go to Eden Prairie schools. Inter-district is the option you're looking for. Intra-district is the second one I mentioned, which allows students to attend a school within their assigned district, but maybe not the school that they were assigned to. For example, let's say you live in Lakeville, Minnesota, and you are assigned to Lakeville North High School, but you really want to attend Lakeville High School. Intra-district is the option you're looking for. And one last important thing to note there is that while inter-district is covered by the state, intra-district is still up to the local districts. And one thing I wanted to mention before we move on is with intra-district, it's not covered at the state level, so this is more of a local policy that's adopted by school districts, and they will address whether they allow that type of open enrollment or not. Okay, so now let's look at some of the benefits, the eligibility requirements, the application process, and considerations you might want to make when choosing open enrollment. So first, purpose and benefits. The main goal of Minnesota's open enrollment policy is to promote educational choice and high quality education access for students across the state. It offers several benefits, the first being choice. Parents and legal guardians have the ability to choose a school or district that aligns with their child's needs, educational preferences, and interests or learning styles. Next is access to specialized programs. Students can access specialized programs like language immersion, magnet schools, or career and technical education that may not be available in their resident district. Next is diversity. Open enrollment can lead to a more diverse student population, which can enhance the educational experience for all students. And last is flexibility. Families can select a school that's closer to home, work, or just one that fits their schedule and needs better. All right, number two here is eligibility. Students in Minnesota, to be eligible for open enrollment, must meet the following. The student must be a resident of Minnesota, and the student must be between the ages of 5 and 21 by September 1st of the enrollment year they are open enrolling for. And last is space availability. Acceptance is dependent on whether the desired school district has space available left. All right, number 3, the application process. Here's a sort of step-by-step guide to the open enrollment application process. Start by researching the schools that you're interested in and consider your child's specific education requirements and needs. Next, check deadlines. Minnesota sets an open enrollment period, which is typically from December through January for the application process, but in the research I've done here, I've seen some as early as October 1st. So if you're looking for a school or a district that you're interested in, make sure you're well aware ahead of time so that you can get your application in a timely manner. Next, fill out the open enrollment application, which is provided by your residential school district, and then submit it. If necessary, when there are more applicants than spaces available, a lottery may be held, and this will determine which students are admitted. Next, you'll receive a notification of the status of your application. If you've been accepted, you'll typically receive an enrollment form for the district that you're interested in. All right, next, some considerations you're gonna wanna make. First being transportation. Remember, when you're open enrolling, transportation is on the parent or student. Some schools or districts do have transportation options, but they're not always available. So make sure to consider the logistics and costs of getting your student to and from school, since you'll be the one in charge of transportation. Next is academic performance. Research the schools that you're interested in to ensure that they meet your students' educational needs and preferences. And lastly, some other considerations you might want to make. Look into the extracurricular activities, if those are important to you, if your child has any special education needs, or just generally any needs your student might have. And last here is renewal. Open enrollment often requires annual renewal. Not always, but sometimes it does, so be prepared to reapply each year if necessary. So now that we've gone through some of the general information about open enrollment, let's get into those granular details I promised. Minnesota statutes require all Minnesota school districts to utilize the state-provided open enrollment application, and that application cannot be modified. So here's a big one. There are 2 statewide enrollment options, and one or the other has to be filled out based on your specific situation. Okay, so the names of these applications are a bit wordy, so I'm gonna read directly off of the screen here. So the first one, and this is kind of the more traditional one that most folks are using, is the General Statewide Enrollment Options Application for K through 12 and Early Childhood Special Education. So you'll use this application for inter-district K through 12 and inter-district Early Childhood Special Education. In some school districts, Early Childhood Special Education is called Help Me Grow. Okay, and the next one, again, I'm gonna read this because it's a very lengthy title. The next type of application is called the Statewide Enrollment Options Application for State-Funded Voluntary Pre-Kindergarten or School Readiness Plus application. You would use this application for voluntary pre-kindergarten or School Readiness Plus open enrollment. To complete either application, you need the following: the name of the school district that the parents or legal guardians of the student reside. You can visit the Legislative Coordinating Commission School District Finder to determine the resident school district if you don't already know. You'll also need basic contact info for the superintendent's office of the non-resident district that you're applying to. You can find a list of all the contact information on the Minnesota Department of Education's website. So something of note here is that Minnesota school districts are not allowed to solicit information from families, current schools, or others to obtain information about the student that's applying, other than what is being asked on the application. This includes discussions on race. So basically they can't ask about a student's disciplinary history, the student's special education status or needs, birth date, gender, race, academic performance, etc. Once accepted for open enrollment, the student can attend that school district through graduation. So earlier we mentioned the lottery aspect, and this is when there's more applications than there are spaces available. An interesting part to this is that siblings will receive priority consideration when demand exceeds the number of spaces available and a lottery is held. Some of the timing to the application process, most districts will fall between December and January, some starting as early as October 1st, but the actual date that it has to be in by is January 15th for the following fall. So new as of August 1st, 2023, families offered an open enrollment spot must either accept or decline the offer within 10 business days. So before I mentioned there were 2 different types of open enrollment. They both had very lengthy titles. But there are some other options to consider based on your needs, some of which are alternative learning, charter schools, non-public and homeschooling, and online learning. So I know that some of this is pretty overwhelming and can be kind of complicated. But ultimately what it means is if you're in a position to get your student to and from school without the busing system, it really opens up the options of where you can live while accessing the schools you want. And if you want our help buying a home here in the Twin Cities or navigating the school systems, reach out to me directly at bradford@tothetwincities.com. I'd love to help. See you next time.